Alright, so usually I just quickly recap the year that I'm discussing and get on with it, but there's two things that I need to tell you guys. The first is, I know I said in March I was going to do 2010, and I still plan to do it. Can we push it back 3 months? I'm sorry. Okay, I made that goal in the last years in animation with pure confidence. Nothing was coming out that would relate back to 2010. Hi, How to Train Your Dragon remake coming out in June. It's my own stupidity. I love y'all for making that goal happen. I am so sorry. I'll post a poll or something or whatever the most recommended year is. I promise. Please don't take it out and be ungrateful. I didn't even think about it. It's my own stupidity. Anyways, 2020. I just say that and people my age shudder. Yeah, so 2020 was, for a number of reasons, not too great. With the elephant in the room, not to mention said elephant driving movie releases back so far as a whole year. Such movies that were supposed to release within even months, Ghostbusters Afterlife, No Time to Die, The Kingsman, Free Guy, all movies meant to release within 2020 getting pushed back. Hell, all 4 of those movies I just mentioned were 2021 releases. But hey, we got stuck with Bloodshot, Doolittle. The Invisible Man was good. The Hunt. I'm not gonna act like nothing came out this year, but because of many major companies and studios pushing their releases back to maintain a theater release, or if you're like Warner Brothers, lose money like dumb fucks, you guessed it, the year in animation here was run mostly by indie or smaller studios. Not to say Pixar and DreamWorks weren't present, as both had 2 releases this year, but I think this is the first year in animation where Disney didn't have a real major mainline release. They had a release, but it wasn't from Walt Disney Animation. That being said, this was the year of a lot of newer companies, and especially years in animation rookies. We got our first ones from Netflix Animation, Cartoon Network movies, Flying Bark. Lionsgate had a release? Doesn't matter. Today, let's take a look at 2020, animation's underrated year. Pixar surprisingly was still able to release 2 movies this year. Now, I should mention that's something that Pixar barely ever does, and to be fair, they released one of them on Disney+. In history, the 4 times they've done such a heinous thing have been 2015, 2017, which I discussed last time, this year, and 2022. And I will say, this is somehow the only year where I liked both releases. It seems every year they've released 2 movies, there's one I really like and one I'm not too fond of. And while yes, Onward is certainly a weaker Pixar production, it's not fair to call it bad. It follows 2 brothers, Ian and Chris Pratt. I know his name's Barley, but I think Garfield ruined Chris Pratt's voice acting for me. They lost their dad years ago, but a spell allows them to bring him back for a little bit to talk to him. However, they only bring back the legs, so they have to go on an epic quest to bring back the rest of them. One thing that surprised me here is that I don't hate either of the main characters. Okay, 2020 was around the time Tom Holland was everywhere, and people were a bit sick of him, but the character is fitting pretty well. I also really like Barley, and yeah, I know it's meme to death how Chris Pratt is in every animated movie, but I think a lot of people forget he has talent to do so. Just look at the Lego movie. And while this isn't nearly to that level, he is surprisingly very charming in this role, even though he annoyed the fuck out of me in the beginning. I like the idea of a fantasy world moving on from technological advances. That's actually very smart. I'm not gonna act like modern fantasy isn't a thing, but it's really well done here. This guy also directed Monsters University, and I think that makes a lot of sense. That one was also kind of divided with Pixar fans, but in the end, I really enjoyed that, and I do enjoy this. Okay, so the one that I found way better, even though I liked both releases this year, Soul. I have to admit, considering 2019 wasn't too special with Toy Story 4 and Incredibles 2 was good but divided many, Soul was a nice return to form for Pixar. What made a lot of great Pixar hits of the mid to late 2000s was being able to focus on one theme and have that one theme drive the film's emotional points. Ratatouille was great because it taught that believing in your art and character will achieve greatness. Up taught that letting go can be healthier than holding on. These were themes that weren't terribly deep, but because they were told with such love and care, you gotta give credit that they stuck with you like they were. And Soul, once again not having that deep of a theme, is drove by a lot of great animation, clever storytelling, and a likable main character. But he's voiced by Jamie Foxx, he's really easy to make likable. Now one thing I just cringed at in the trailers was Tina Fey as 22. The reason being, a lot of problems I have with so many new Disney and even other animated movies nowadays is that they always have to have one character meant to be the funny character. Because Dory, right? Key and Peele in Toy Story 4, Hey Hey in Moana, even my favorite Pixar movie, Coco, I said, yeah, you keep that dog silent, damn it. But these characters don't necessarily ruin a film as long as they have good writing. With that said, I still haven't laughed at anything Claude said in Elemental.
An act of God or an act of...
But this is an Elemental, it's Soul, and 22 is alright. She's not egregiously funny, which sucks because she's Tina Fey, but she's alright. This is probably my favorite Pixar film this decade next to Inside Out 2, so give it a good hand. Okay, so I said Disney didn't have an official Walt Disney release this year, and they did have a release from Disney Channel called Phineas and Ferb Candace Against the Universe. And it's kind of weird that I've never said I'm a huge Phineas and Ferb fan. Yeah, I really like the Disney Channel series. And it never stuck with me like Gravity Falls or Owl House. I really do like this show's iconic characters, the iconic setups, and of course the Muppet tunes. Though I do fully agree, this is one of the weaker entries in terms of Phineas and Ferb. It's not bad, it just didn't stick with me like the rest of the series, and even the other movies did. For that, Candace Against the Universe earns a solid rating for me.
Such a beautiful day.
Kill John Lennon.
DreamWorks had somewhat a solid year, as in, I don't think either of the films are god-awful. The Croods, A New Age, I kid you not, is both a great yet awful sequel to The Croods. It's kind of cool that I'm finally doing a sequel to a film I discussed in my 2013 episode. But I associate The Croods with, yes, pretty goofy humor, but it was a film that knew when to slow down and develop its characters. Here, it doesn't do that a lot. At most, it has a few scenes where they take time to develop these new characters, but god, this one's so bizarre, but it's actually really funny. Me and Michael went to see this when we worked at the theater together, and we would have been 18 at the time, and I kid you not, it's the hardest we've laughed all year.
Here, right here. All your needs will be met.
I'm hungry.
Okay, so while Croods 2 isn't a masterpiece, I have a soft spot for it. Oh boy! Trolls World Tour is definitely the 9/11 for Trolls fans. I stand by this being the worst and already pretty bland trilogy of DreamWorks films. There's nothing wrong with it that the other films didn't already do. It's a standard kiddie film. The Rock and Roll Troll was kind of cool. I don't know, man, these movies give me nothing to work with. Oh wait, Justin Timberlake's in these hoes! Hey, Warner Brothers animation release. I'm elated. Well, hey, I've enjoyed a few of their releases. Maybe I'll enjoy this. Oh boy, Scoob. A pretty weak film, even as far as a formulaic Scooby-Doo film goes. It's Scooby-Doo, a mystery is afoot, and it's up to Mystery Inc. to save the day. Also, Dick Dastardly, and Blue Falcon, and Dynamite, and like 40 other Hanna-Barbera characters. Did I mention this was an attempt at a Hanna-Barbera cinematic universe? Yeah, because when I think of cinematic universe, it's fucking Quick Draw McGraw, dude. If they never took advantage of a pup named Scooby-Doo origin film, I would have probably felt the same as I do now. This is just nothing, man! It sucks because there's potential in some of these castings. Zac Efron as Fred is absolutely fitting considering neither have personality. Mark Wahlberg as Blue Falcon surprisingly fits. And give it to Ken Jeong as Dynamite, he gets the funniest laugh in the movie.
Meet Brian. Hey, you shut your dog face. You shut your face.
Well, at least Shaggy remains the champion, voiced by
It's our signature dessert.
Will Forte. Yeah, absolutely. I can think of one other person who I know you could have just given the role to, but yeah, MacGruber. Where's fucking Adam Driver as Fred Flintstone? Keanu Reeves as Yogi Bear. Oh, boy. Literally, why didn't you just cast Matthew Lillard? Don't act like he wouldn't have done this. He would have. He loves playing Shaggy. Okay, even with budget restrictions, you could have gotten anyone else to do a good Shaggy impression. Will Forte clearly has talent in voice acting, look at Clone High, but this just wasn't his role, man. I mean, they just didn't know what to do here, man. Especially when Shaggy sacrifices himself to save the world. What?! Okay, so yeah, Scooby and Shaggy fight over who sacrificed themselves as it's part of some big prophecy. This is the show about a talking dog solving mysteries. When did this Indiana Jones shit come in? Okay, with all that, we haven't even gotten to my least favorite part. Scooby talks like 90% of the film. Now, I remember Mr. Incorporated played with the idea of this talking dog who doesn't say much, saying a lot of long, run-on sentences. Only difference, that show did it funny. This...
We're in
IKEA.
the Falcon Fury. Did you say IKEA?
I said Falcon Fury.
Scoob isn't an awful film, it just falls flat so... Scoob isn't an awful film, it just falls flat so badly. Especially considering how easy it is to do a Scooby-Doo movie. Fuck, James Gunn did it twice, almost 20 years before this film. Overall, it feels more like a best of Hanna-Barbera film than a Scooby-Doo film. For that, it's down pretty low. Alrighty then, SpongeBob Movie 3, the bad one. I've mentioned various times my problem with Sponge on the Run, but I should stress, it's not necessarily a terrible film, just not to stand with the first or even second SpongeBob movie. The CG animation was a strange approach. It's both a repeat of the first movie and the episode Have You Seen the Snail. Matt Berry as Neptune is at least a very charming casting choice. But the rest of it is really tough to defend. Even Keanu Reeves as Sage felt kind of forced. I love Keanu Reeves, but it felt like Nickelodeon really said, Bill and Ted 3, damn it! And just threw him in because he was popular at the time. Overall, this one's just pretty weak. It's nothing awful, just a total downgrade from the previous two films.
We don't care about little imperfections or even big ones. Just look at Squidward.
Okay, a Cartoon Network movie, that's new. This one is a movie based on We Bare Bears. Okay, that's a decent series. And I'd say if you're a fan of the show, you'll get into this one fine. There's nothing incredibly special about it, but when you consider this was essentially the finale of the show, it makes it much more special. I never kept up with the show, it sadly ran right after I got out of cartoons, but it certainly is a comfy and charming show, and this is a pretty standard finale. We got two from Netflix Animation, another year in animation rookie. Their first was Over the Moon, and while it seemed to be a pretty mixed bag with people, I'm on the side of people who not only really liked it, but loved it. I'm not terribly familiar with the Chinese legend that this film is inspired by, but I found this film surprisingly charming and colorful and just likable. It's a very charming film. Fei-Fei is immediately likable, and damn, Dr. Ken, you got some vocals there.
It changes every day. It spins and turns and twirls away.
Alongside Soul and one other film we'll get to shortly, this one is one of my favorites of the year. Just an incredibly fun film. For me, it's a damn shame not a lot of people paid attention to it at first. Okay, on the other hand, The Willoughbys, a film I picked up, wasn't nearly as good as Over the Moon. With that, it's fine. I don't think it quite hits the character and emotion marks Over the Moon did, but the cast holds their own. Get out of here! I got nothing, man, except subscribe if you haven't already and hit that like button. Okay, finally, Cartoon Saloon, been hitting them quite a few times this year. And the release this time was Wolfwalkers. This was a pretty big deal around award season. Well, so was Amelia Perez, and oh look, that shit is going south fast, baby! What was I talking about? Oh yeah, Wolfwalkers. A pretty decent time. I liked The Breadwinner way more, but I think this is pretty great. And further confirming Cartoon Saloon might not have a single bad movie. I don't know yet, but for now, this one is not nearly as heavy as the topics in The Breadwinner. But if you like that or any of Cartoon Saloon's other projects, you'll definitely like this. Okay, so I have a funny confession. I am a sucker for stupid foreign animated films. Don't get me wrong, foreign animation has excelled over the course of the last decade. Just look at The Boy and the Heron winning Best Animated Feature last year. Look at movies like Look Back. Hell, I just talked about Cartoon Saloon. No doubt, foreign countries have had quite the impact on animation. Barker's Mind the Cats. Yeah, so the same way I love a good foreign animated movie, I love a bad one. Movies that clearly aren't even trying and just replicating what worked with other more popular companies. No doubt about it, these films had very little thought put into them. But recently, I found one that was just so ridiculous, and of course, it came from Germany. Now, Ulysses Film Production is pretty well known for albeit more high-quality schlop. One of their more popular hits here in the States was The Flight Before Christmas, which showed on ABC quite a few times. But in 2015, they had a film that went under many titles. The most common one was All Creatures Big and Small, which was a fine title, but there was also 2x2, a title that makes no fucking sense. What, there's two main characters? Oh, that's what Monsters Inc. was missing. But I kid you not, one title about made me piss myself from laughter. Hold on to your holy Bibles, because an actual title for this movie was Oops, Noah is Gone. Yes, that is a reference to the biblical story of Noah's Ark, implying that this movie is about Noah's Ark. But you know what's really funny? That title implies that Noah isn't even in the movie, and he's not. They reference him, but they don't show him. That implies that this German-based animation studio, who clearly are giving it their all here, know the story of Noah's Ark, yet didn't know to put on, fucking Noah. This had me laughing my ass off, because the funniest part is, it's not even Noah's Ark. The film's legit only connection to the biblical story, I joke you not, is the title, and that there's going to be a big flood. But even if we had any connections to the biblical story here, how did Noah miss these two creatures? Actually, that's the plot of the film, but we're not here to discuss that film, no. As I mentioned, in 2020, those fuckers in Germany decided to drop a sequel, Oops, The Adventure Continues. This is pretty standard stuff. I do admit it could be worse. I think it needs a lot of improvement if they ever make Oops, Noah Returns. I don't know, man. This shit's hilarious. Moving on. 100% Wolf, first flick from Flying Bark Productions. Is this a furry movie? And I've heard a lot about this film, and honestly, I really don't have much to say. It's pretty standard. Yeah, I don't have much on it. You know what I do have a lot on? I shouldn't have pulled up the poster. God. Oh, Jesus. Oh, God. Okay, so, I'm gonna get this part out of the way. First of all, I'm gonna take a picture real quick of what the script for Finding Jesus looks like. I kid you not, but what I'm about to show on my screen is literally, that is how much I've written for this movie. I am purely confident that I pretty much know everything about this movie. I didn't need to write any notes about it. I'll also get out of the way that I'm not making fun of religion in this. That's just not. I don't do that. You know, this isn't making fun of religion. But look at the poster; it's making fun of Jesus a lot more than I could ever. Wow, this is awful. I mean, I've watched some pretty bad animated movies for this series, but God, how did we get here? Obviously, this is one of those really bad knockoff films, clearly inspired by Finding Nemo, which is funny because this came out a whole 17 years after Finding Nemo, so that's really weird to me. Also, something I'm gonna mention because I'm editing this segment right now, I'm not reusing any footage. They use the same, like, 5 shots in this entire film. It's so funny. Talking about this is definitely kind of a difficult thing for me to do because recently, back in January, I had something that happened to me that kind of made me turn a little bit more to the idea of religion. Now, I will start off by saying I'm not the most religious person. I grew up decently. Like, I knew about religion thanks to a lot of people in my life, especially the 2 people that I mentioned I lost back in 2024. And this story it's nothing too dark, but I wanted to just talk about it because it was something that was really interesting that happened to me. So, what happened was I was fast asleep one night, and this was a decently cold time. January was a cold month for Ohio, and I woke up and I was just like shaking like a lot. Like I usually do. I shake a little bit if I'm not covered up, but I was covered up, and we have our heat almost always on full blast. So it's kind of weird to me that all of a sudden I was just shaking. I decided to take a shower to see if that would help. You know, it's sometimes it does, and it didn't. And I didn't know like what was going on. Like was I sick? Did I catch something? I didn't. I mean, it was possible. I mean, I work in a place where it's easy to contract something like that. After I'd started like breathing a little heavier, I had picked up that I was having an anxiety attack, and it had been a while since the last time I had that happen, and I found it really like hard to calm down for some reason. I was like, why am I? I went to the kitchen where we didn't have a lot of things that like if I got frantic, I couldn't hurt myself or anything, so I just kind of leaned against the sink and just tried to catch my breath, and that is when, I kid you not, I know that this sounds like I'm just bullshitting and I'm just trying to make it up, but I wanted to, this is legit, you know, I heard a gust of wind pass against the window, and it might have just been my mindset, but it sounded like heavily like a mix of my grandfather and Connor's voice saying, "Stay calm, breathe." And I don't know what that was, and I don't know if it was just where I was when my mindset. It was so weird, and I was like, man, did I just have a religious like coming to Jesus moment? I don't know if that was truly what it was, but I just thought that was interesting. You know, I found Jesus in that case. You know. But this movie sucks, so I don't know why I'm even getting so deep about it. I mean, look at that poster. Yeah, so that's Finding Jesus. I want to mention one more thing before I wrap this up. It is possible to make a religious cartoon without it being so preachy, which this isn't. This preaches to the choir, okay? VeggieTales is a great example of this. They were always able to make this kind of, you never felt like they were shoving messages down your throat. They were fun with it. They made it fun to learn about this stuff. This isn't. I'm gonna go ahead and move on. This is the longest section in this video. And that's 2020 in animation. Wait, Lionsgate? Huh. I didn't know they released animated stuff. What was the... Oh, no. Oh, no.